Hello, everyone. This is Ur from EDP740. I'm going to be briefly talking about cognitive family models based on chapter 3, 4, and 5. Um, this model, cognitive model, is based on the idea that humans are inborn, have an inborn capacity to seek and encode a given information. They look for attributes of the information they try to classify and compare and build categories. So that really speaks to their ability to naturally inquire a given information by investigating. So that's what this model is mainly based on. Inductive inquiry is a model specifying what we need to do as teachers. I think the very first thing that we need to keep in mind is the cognitive overload that our students can have. Inductive inquiry is a good thing. Yeah, they will dealing with information, but if there's too much and if there's no focus, if there's no limit, then they will be overloaded. Yet, as teachers, we might need to be able to organize and manage that information. So that was important for them to actually to digest the given information. So scaffolding guiding is definitely part of it. We also want to go beyond just the inquiry, but also the thinking capacity. Our goal is to be able to make them this process as a way to help them actually think when a given data, a given information means anything to them. So there are different aspects of the inductive inquiries. As I mentioned, the focused investigation is important. We've got to be able to provide the scope, given pick a domain, not anything else, but we got to have something to start with. And that also means a set of data to be presented to the learners, which they will use to identify the attributes and hopefully they categorize them and develop their understanding from there. So their involvement in the process is really important. We're really not telling them, how this data or given information is related to each other, or we are providing the categories. No, we are actually having them develop the categories by looking at what they're presented. So their involvement is really important there, and because our goal is to, like I said, is to help them be the thinkers when a given set of information is provided to them. So they need to be able to go beyond what we're presenting in the classroom, but carry that skill beyond that. When they're given something, can they really think about that? Can they recognize patterns? Can they recognize those attributes and understand the relationship between different categories and concepts? So those are more important than just answering the questions that or categorize the information or data that we provided in the classroom. So inquiry is the key to this model, and inductive inquiry is more, again, starting with the data and trying to understand the patterns and the relationship, whereas inquiry as a scientific process is a little bit opposite to that. We tend to start with the hypotheses or the theories that will also involve collecting data, analyzing the data, and coming up with some solutions. That's a systematic application of a scientific method. That's what we call it. An inquiry is a scientific process. So this is a way to come up with knowledge, some understanding. Yet we can do that without research. We can do that without inquiry. We can actually learn from others. We can just think about something and we can come up with some knowledge. We can also learn by experience, right? I mean, all of these things can give us some sort of knowledge, yet they may not be accurate. They may not be reliable. What I learn or what I experience by myself or hearing from others may not necessarily apply to others' context. So that's why the inquiry as a scientific process comes into play, where we control many variables and focus on certain things in the problem that we identify and the things that we predict. But we look at the collection of the data. We collect some data, but we also try to analyze what it really means. and that will hopefully help us understand and coming up with some understanding about the data related to the problem that we identify at the beginning. So that is basically the research, but that is important to really come up with a reliable and accurate sort of understanding. As a teaching method, is going to be strong, right? We are trying to interest our students in a certain content, maybe by using some driving questions that they might be interested in, um, and and narrowing down to maybe specific problems and questions that hopefully will guide their inquiry. Uh, but that process requires them to actually go ahead and collect some data, as opposed to us providing the data. They should be involved in that process, and of course analyzing the data and requiring maybe some sort of experiments. Uh, but they are the ones who are coming up with their findings and interpretations. So as an inquiry key to this model, our last I think example is the picture world inductive model. So this is again more another opposite. Instead of coming up with a problem and hypotheses, we actually provide the data here, which is more like a picture. This model has a literacy orientation to it, where learners actually are provided maybe a bit of picture where that they use that picture to generalize and form letters, words, sentences, paragraphs. So there's definitely a literacy connection to that, but it can go beyond that content. History, I think, might be a good topic. Even science, mathematics. I mean, certain pictures, images will elicit certain thinking and make students actually be interested in certain ways of thinking about the content. So it definitely can go beyond literacy. Yet the model itself, as described in the book, is focused on literacy. So, like I mentioned, the picture is used as a stimuli, right? Where students can describe the attributes, they classify, they try to see the relationship, they create sentences, and so that is really the literacy orientation. But that can be applied to history, like I mentioned. We are teaching about the issues in history and how they can be applied to our context. We might bring those real pictures and images that we can find in many places, including internet, to create that interest, and that can be formed about maybe a specific question, uh, the guide to guide students inquiry, their interpretations, their classifications of the image. So I'm just gonna be, I think, giving a lot of information about this model. You read a lot, so this is more like just like a summary. But for next week, want you to make sure that what you read here can be turned into an application, as shown on the blog page 7. There is an information how to do this, and we have a template. Just go ahead and use it. It's actually due tomorrow. But if you have any questions, shoot me an email. I'll be happy to answer it. And thank you for listening.